Welcome back to Belmont Bunch. This week's edition is pain. That's the theme. You might be wondering why I'm wearing all black and also wearing the ugliest Islander jersey I think there is. That's because one, they played ugly games, and two, this is a funeral for the Islanders season.
But Tom, the defense and the goaltending have been, getting their act together.
That's good. If they can win games 1-0 or -1-0, they'll be fine. They'll be great. That being said, let's get into how the Islanders have squandered a 16-3-1 start to their season and are now just inside the playoffs. It's great. We are going to be breaking down the three-game stretch that has me literally having Islander panic attacks. Generally speaking, about the three games. Usually we break them down individually. I think this one, if you watched the game, if you stayed up like me until 2 a.m. to watch the Islanders get shut out, not a great feeling. And also, Semyon Varlamov was fantastic. And of course, the one goal had to be a miscommunication between him and Nick Leddy, who doesn't pick up the puck, and he gets slapped into the net as Varlamov's trying to get back in. They wasted the best performance of Varlamov's Islander career, so that's fun. Then they went to Arizona, and now we're on a two-game having been shut out streak after Nashville. And James, can you remind us, what was our goal differential before the Nashville game, before the stretch of games?
15.
15. So the Nashville game had it down to 10. 9, 8, 7, 6. Great. Really, sign of an elite team to have a +6 goal differential. They cannot win right now, especially on the road. Another interesting thing, just overall, no power play goals, but no power play goals allowed. So, and as James pointed out before the video, the defense, generally good. The goaltending, generally good. The offense, over the last 4 games, averaging a whopping 0.5 goals per game. Recipe for success there. Beauvillier, good to see 18 and 22 next to those names. Those guys have been two of the better forwards for the Islanders this year. And Andy Green picks up an assist in his first game. By the way, broke up a breakaway in this game. Generally played very, very well. And I'll do a separate video talking about what it took to get him, obviously giving up a second-round pick and a prospect. We'll save that for another video. Really good performances in both games, more so the Arizona game for Andy Green, the former Devils captain. I talked about it in one of my blog posts, see below, that I wanted an Andy Green type to shore up the defense because Noah Dobson, who was awful in the Vegas game, by the way, had one sequence of play where he gave away the puck 3 times in his own zone. That's going to endure you to a defensive-minded coach. They really need him sitting. He's gotten experience this year. He's gotten plenty of experience. The issue is now you need to win games, and you can't just hold the whole team up and go, we need this one kid to get better, so we need him to learn through his mistakes. No, because they can't survive their mistakes. They make one mistake in this, well, they made several mistakes, and Varlamov bailed them out. They make one mistake that gets finished off in this game, and they lose because they have no offense. It feels like any time they allow a goal, you immediately are like, oh, now we're just hoping for a point out of this game because they can only manage a goal at the best of times right now. So, wider discussion about these 3 games, with Varlamov playing well, the defense generally playing well. I think a good acquisition in Green. So they've addressed one need. They've addressed defensive depth, and Thomas Hickey could end up finding his way back up in the majors pretty soon, as long as he's healthy, which I would actually welcome. And Noah Dobson can go down and get playing time without costing us a playoff spot. So it's perfect for everybody. The Colorado game, Nelson scores after, it's 3-0. Our goalie's pulled. Great, good stuff. Really got us back in that one. Barzal, I want to point out, so he gets an assist on that goal. Barzal's been playing his ass off. Can't really blame much on him, but the players, they look winded. Barzal's kind of one of the only ones that doesn't look winded, and part of that is he's a kid still. Beauvillier, I guess you could throw into that. I mean, Anders Lee is brutal right now. And the fact that he is our first-line left winger, we'd love to have Chris Kreider. The price is too much for Chris Kreider. I would have liked to see Pearson acquired. not Pearson, sorry. Toffoli,
Yeah.
two former Kings. Would have liked to see Toffoli be here. I think we could have matched that one. I think that one could be on Lou. But the tough thing is now you've waited so long that you really can't give up your first round pick, because that could be a lottery pick at this point. Because if they don't if they don't make the playoffs, they need that first round pick. We don't have a very deep prospect pool, and you can't just go throwing around first round picks. Toronto's been doing it the last few years, and they might miss the playoffs this year as well. So let's be careful. I don't see anybody on this current market, which is basically down to Kreider and Pageau, that would make enough of a difference to push this team into the playoffs. So I unfortunately think with this stretch of games, including the Nashville one, you now, as an Islander fan, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I almost said you should. If you're Lou Lamoriello, that's more apt. I think you now have to think about the future rather than now, because you waited too long to fix the now, and now you got to think about the future of, we need that first round pick. We no longer have our second because of the Green trade. That's where I think you could probably argue, if they were going to make any trade, the offensive one should have come first, because it was the more pressing need, and that one would require more assets, and that would let you know where you are better in terms of asset management when you're acquiring the depth defenseman. Because hypothetically, I mean, listen, I think Andy Green, great start. He played really well, and they needed depth, but if they, what if they had found out Hickey is healthy and he could have come up next week? That saves us losing a second round pick. Maybe we use that second round pick and a prospect to get Tyler Toffoli or Pageau. Now you can't do that, because now you don't have a second round pick. And if you give up your first now for somebody and you still don't make the playoffs, you don't pick until the third round and you miss the playoffs. It's really scary, because the organization has built up a lot of credibility by getting in Stanley Cup winning GM and Stanley Cup winning coach, and it can go right out the window real quick if this team goes right back into being embarrassing, especially when you start 16-3-1. I think I've mentioned this before. 16-3-1 they started, and they are now tied for the last playoff spot. That's bad. I believe it was Brennan Burke last night, after Colorado went up 3-0, and we were like, I guess the Islanders are going to have to score 3 goals now. Nope. Brendan Burke pointed out the Islanders are, 17-17-5 since the point streak. They're not a good team. They're not, honestly, without that stretch in the beginning of the season, they're not a playoff team. They're probably fighting for a lottery pick. They're probably looking at a top 5 draft pick if they don't have that 17-game point streak, because they're not much better than the two teams. Well, they're better than Detroit. I can't say they're not better than Detroit. Detroit is basically an AHL team. I will be going to that game. They lose that game, the next video, I'm going to be wearing the paper bag. It'll be fun. It's going to be great. I'll wear it the whole time. And then I'm also going on Sunday as they play the bottom-dwelling Sharks of the West. And so I really think the players know this too, that if they lose one of those games, that's unacceptable. They need to win the next 2 games. You're playing 2 of the worst teams in the league, and it's not even like they're 2 awful teams that, but they have this offensive punch that can surprise you. No, they have no offensive punch. You've got Detroit, who's the worst defense and the worst offense. There's no excuse to lose that team. You really should hang 7 on them. Speaking of hanging, they're going to be hanging John Tonelli's jersey in the rafters that night. There's no excuse not to come out pumped up, as one of the legends of the Stanley Cup team is in the building, and also you know where you stand. The players know how embarrassing this is, and Trotz knows too. And I think anyone putting the pressure on anyone but Lou, I'm basically paraphrasing James Duffy, the billboard man, if you didn't know, on Twitter. The fault lies with Lou Lamoriello for not improving the offense. We knew coming into the season that the team wasn't going to be good offensively, and losing Robin Lehner has proved to be somewhat of an effect. Not a crazy effect. I mean, partially it's Thomas Greiss falling apart that has done them in goal, as Varlamov had a great week. But I think that being said, we're going to go to the Stars of the Week. Whoa, that'll be fun. Stars of the Week, Matt Barzal, despite a lack of like tangible numbers from him. He got an assist in the last game. He played extremely hard. The Vegas game, a lot of people on Twitter were saying it was probably the best game of his career. He's been getting extra minutes from Trotz despite committing a penalty in that game. Usually the opposite happens with that. And it's the only person right now that really looks like he feels the desperation of the situation they're in. Semyon Varlamov basically stood on his head this week. He was basically him and Barzal were easily the best two players. The Vegas game, the only reason we stayed in the game, I just said basically 5 times in a row. That's why I cut it off the third time. The third one, we almost only did 2. Beauvillier got the goal that ended a 120-minute goal drought. No, it was more than that. It was 2 games, 2 periods.
It was in the third?
Yeah, it was in the third period.
Shit.
It was 167 minutes.
Damn.
I believe.
That's crazy.
I might be wrong about but it was over 120 for sure, and then they didn't score until the third period of the Arizona game on a deflection from Beauvillier from Andy Green. Really good play. Beauvillier on that whole play hustled into the corner, got cross-checked, got up, won the puck against 2 players. They get it back out up top. He gets himself into position and deflects one in. So, yeah, credit to Beauvillier. The 2 young guys, skater-wise, you could see their youth because the season hasn't gotten to them, even though the team as a whole looks winded. And the sin bin, Lou Lamoriello. I think we said this in the video. Just not enough, the moves had to be done earlier so that they could figure out where they were and also improve their situation before embarking on a gigantic road trip like this. And it's not like the warning signs weren't there. They've been playing 500 hockey for about 2 months, 2.5 months now. So I think he's a very, he's stubborn. That's sometimes a good thing with him, sometimes a bad. The fact that they're struggling for scoring and they've got guys in the minors and they've not called them up, to me, shows an inability to change from Lou that he needs. I feel like I know he's set in his ways and he's won a cup and all this and that, but what have you done for me lately? He's made 2 trades in his time as Islanders GM. He acquired a 4th-line grinder, who we do appreciate energy-wise, but he looks cooked. Matt Martin, that is. And Andy Green, I think it's fine for depth, but like I said in the, I won't restate it. I think in the video, asset management, you go and you get the scorer before you get the depth defenseman because the scoring was the bigger problem, and the depth defenseman now you've given up an asset for that could have been used in acquiring the forward. So Lou Lamoriello on the sin bin. You could probably fit every Islander, not one of these guys, and also Andy Green. I wouldn't throw him in that. But everybody else you could probably throw in the sin bin too this week, including maybe Barry Trotz for some decisions on who to play and who not to play. But the blame for the season on the whole, if they do miss the playoffs, is on Lamoriello. So that's the video. Like and subscribe. Look below for the written blog that I do on the side, and also give us some comments and some feedback on what you think of this week and what does it mean and what would you do going forward now as the trade deadline it's a weekend away. All right, thanks for watching. See you later. I would have liked to see Pearson acquired. Not Pearson, sorry.
Hurdle.
No, Hurdle tore his ACL.
And MCL.
And MCL. We could have acquired his MCL.